Doors at 7, kitchen at 9. Here we are. Chris smoking bowls. The motherfucker's barely awake, and he's trying to go back to sleep already. Yeah. And you got to work.
I literally, when he got to my house, he called me. And I did this to Dave like a week ago, where Dave called, where like 4 missed calls from Dave sitting out of my house for 15 minutes, dude. I can't get on this fucking sleep schedule. And
just
then
because of daylight savings time?
No, from working back full time in general and working like morning to fucking close every single day that we're open. Like, I get home, I either am up till 3 o'clock in the morning to try to fucking enjoy myself. You know, the girlfriend's sleeping, the kids sleeping, like I finally have the fucking house. And then I'll wake up at like 4, I'll pass out on the chair. I'll be like, all right, I'm going to go watch TV and then go to bed. And I wake up at 6 o'clock on the chair and then I go to fucking sleep in the bed. And by that time, like this morning it happened where I just could not he texted me and I woke up and seen it and I was like, all right, man, I'll be ready. And then he called, and then the next thing I know, I wake up and he's like, I'm outside your fucking house. Like,
so did you like have to fold up the Kiss blanket and put away your Kiss stuffies and full size like snuggle Gene Simmons dolls?
No, he don't come in to get me. I just leave all that shit.
Wait, what does that have to do with anything? Well, like Mark Hoppe said, I guess this is growing up.
Yeah, it is.
Gene Simmons have like a sex doll of himself?
No,
does.
but if you called him and said that, like, maybe that's how we get him involved with this podcast. Like, we'll help him build it.
And Chris is gonna test it out.
That's a money fucking.
Okay,
so yeah, I didn't say we'll help him use it. We'll help him build it.
We're gonna do another mental health day today, right?
Yeah, we are.
But first, we got to go to our very new reoccurring segment because our thing says reoccurring segments.
I was waiting
called
for
bars.
James. I was waiting
for. Oh, so someone actually came prepared?
I was waiting for James.
Is there a beat I gotta
There's no
up?
beats. I just wrote this shit this morning while I was drinking my coffee.
Okay, all right.
So who wants it first?
Oh, wow. So you wrote separate.
Separate.
Why don't you warm up with me because it didn't go so well last time when Chris went first.
Okay. Getting beef from Bobby. Dumbest shit since Chris committed robbery. Nose in the air like he's snobby. That's because he's down on his knees giving knobby. Had a brain cell, but that's where the pills go. I kill slow. You get pleasure by sitting on a dildo. So what's the deal, yo? You're your number one fan. You're your own stan. Your biggest groupie is your hand. Try to spit some beef through your missing teeth. Thought you were the chronic, but you're just dried up leaf.
Oh, dude! Alright, go ahead.
You think you're living the dream, better make another meme, the oldest motherfucker in the punk rock scene. Call yourself a drummer when you try to clash like Joe Strummer, keep the fake teeth in while you're giving me a Hummer.
Whoa!
Hey, you brought it!
You fucking brought it! That's redemption.
You didn't even want like a beat or anything.
No.
James, that was really good.
And I was thinking when we start bringing our friends on as guests, like if they need to come with 16 for somebody. Because they're probably going to get 16 too.
Nice.
Wow, you brought it.
Well done.
Hold on.
Yeah,
now he didn't hold back either, which is what I
like.
No. The fucked up thing is I had a way better line that I was going to use, and I fucking totally forgot to put it in there. So we'll have to do it again next week. Oh yeah, this is a new.
Look at his face! He lit up for the first time in 3 episodes.
hey, James finally showed up.
All right, you. I see. You ready?
All right, you. Yeah, I'm ready.
You.
Yeah.
Hold on. Now my shit's all fucked up. I see. It's high C. You think you got juice? It's highly unlikely. This fat fuck wants to fight me. The only thing you might take on is a 4-pack from Mighty. Taco. You're on my jack ho. Sniff another pill and smoke another rock, yo. Sitting on the couch with dick in your mouth because drugs to you is like cheese to a mouse. You're a junkie, retarded. Another project you couldn't finish that you started. MCMD is like your father, so why bother? Kiss so much ass you're covered in slobber. On sick boy's dick, you're a sick puppy. I'm a big fish, you're a little guppy. How the hell can we be rivals? Aren't you like the 12th guitar player in Boss Tribal?
Holy shit!
But I'll give you a chance.
Who is ghostwriting for you, dude?
But hold on, I'll give you a chance to reckon because you're out here enjoying my sloppy seconds.
Oh, because of one-way terror.
And one-eyed jets.
Oh my god!
All right, bars.
Oh, wow.
Come next week.
Bob, we owe him this. You have to clap.
Oh, a clap, yeah.
I didn't know he had it in him.
No.
And like I said, I woke. I
still don't know if he does. I don't know if someone wrote this shit. That was
really like
good.
Freshly waking up and 3 sips of coffee, and I'm like, I wanted to sleep in an extra hour or two like you, but I had to come with bars today, so I didn't get to sleep in.
I love it.
All right, so I'm. Nobody can talk shit about that now. That was fucking really good.
I fucked up that one day, and I was coming for fucking redemption.
Yeah.
He just went for the no teeth, the retard, the fat dude. He just obliterated both of us.
The funny thing is, I had an even better one for Bob. I forgot to throw it in there, but that'll be next week.
The only thing that took away from it is you're wearing a fucking handkerchief.
I know.
He rode it on a train.
I gotta be safe, in this pandemic.
Man. He's like, I ain't shaky anymore, motherfucker. Fucking driving this.
And the funny thing is, like, I was driving around for like a week thinking about this. I'm like, I've known Bob for 26 years. I've never really like thought about this in the dude. What the fuck? So I had to dig a little deep.
I'm thoroughly impressed. That was a way to start this fucking episode. That was.
All right,
I don't think he's ever come up like that before. Has he ever come like that?
No.
Have you ever?
Like in school, talking shit, yeah.
Yeah. So it's been 20 plus years.
He was a hardcore rat kid.
Reed's getting it now. He gets how he has to be a part of this.
Reed for the win today.
Yeah.
Reed couldn't take all that ass kissing. That's the problem. He's like, dude, it's still James. Like, kid thinks he's a DJ and shit.
Oh man.
Holy
yeah.
And the busted clock is right twice a day.
All right, so we got some fucking serious shit to talk about now that we're all fucking laughing and happy.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start it like this because I obviously didn't write my bars. So with me, I can get through like physical shit all the time, like with this new job busting my ass, and honestly it's kicking my ass, but I can do it every single day. I pick up more hours, it don't fucking matter. When mental shit happens, I fucking shut the fuck down, whether I'm up, whether I'm sleeping. Like, I just, even if I can stay up and not just fucking pass out right away, it holds me down.
You ever try cuddling with your kiss dolls?
Yeah, that doesn't help. That just makes me feel worse.
Like Gene doesn't sit there whispering shit in your ear with his tongue.
Oh, well, thank God there's no Gene Simmons sex doll. I'm like, I had to buy it. I'm a collector.
We wouldn't see you for like a couple weeks.
You had to try it out.
I didn't write my bars again this week.
Okay, so let's get serious.
All right, so about 2 years ago, my mom got diagnosed with cancer. Everyone here fucking knows that, right? Mm-hmm. I have a crazy story about that first surgery too that I'll tell in a minute because I don't even know if I told either of you guys this. But anyway, so she got diagnosed with cancer, and we all went to I'll start with that story. We all went to the hospital. Me, my girlfriend, my brother, his wife, my dad, and we're there for fucking about an hour and a half. It's supposed to be like a 6-7 hour fucking surgery. She was getting a full hysterectomy. They had just found cancer on her ovaries. So she decides they're not going to go to Roswell. They're going to go to her fucking primary or her regular doctor, which honestly is and was a mistake from the fucking jump. Now, my parents are God-fearing people without being super religious. They sent me and my brother to Catholic school. For like the first 15 years of our life, we would go to church on every Sunday. Shit like that, you know what I mean? But they're God-fearing people. They just aren't like crazy into the realm of Catholicism, but they believe it.
You guys have like the Brad Pitt Jesus pictures hanging up in your house?
No, see, that's the thing. It wasn't a lot of fucking like religious shit all around. I think with us growing up in Black Rock and shit, they wanted to send us to a better school, and they spent all this money sending us to Catholic school, which really sort of ended up fucking with us, I guess, a little bit. It was such a waste of their fucking time and money. But anyways,
I don't know. Do you feel like that experience gave you the motivation to do the shit you're doing now?
Actually, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I guess so. I really struggled in school, like learning-wise and socially, badly, for the first fucking
32 years.
Yeah, right? I mean, yeah. Throughout my entire school, it was a miserable experience. I didn't know how to relate. I mean, I was wearing fucking Kiss shirts on my fucking non-uniform days, and that was the joke then. It's fucking 2020, fucking 2021. They're still playing, and I'm still wearing Kiss t-shirts. It's fucking sad. But anyways, so it was a Catholic school, yeah, and there's 300 kids in the whole school from pre-K to 8th grade. So there was no like difference between the middle school and the fucking junior high and shit. It was all one fucking school. So that played a role. Yeah, but that's a good point. Did it make me do what I want to do? Yeah, but I think it fucked up things like getting help mentally when you're a kid. Like the schools there, they don't believe in that shit.
Yeah, they want to hide that shit.
They want to hide it. There's only 300 kids in this school, so I was probably the worst one there. Probably.
Yeah. I would say they hide that and don't want to address it in public school either.
I'm sure they
and
do.
You know, like, I think we have a whole, we could do a whole, like, next time we do a mental health day, we can do a whole one on school, because I got so much school stories that we can get into that.
Yeah, what he brought up made me think about it for the first fucking time. Like, yeah, I guess, like I said.
Because, I mean, the way I look at it is life is a struggle.
Yeah.
And when you go through that struggle and you live through it and you get through it, it gives you a sense of, well, fuck, it really ain't that big of a deal. I can come out on the other side and, like, I made it. I put the work in, and it sucked, but it got better.
Yeah.
And it kind of preps you for, like, hey, I'm okay being different as a grown-up, as an adult, because I was always different as a kid, and that shit worked out all right.
Right.
And, you know, Kurt wrote one of Courtney's best albums, Live Through This, based on that philosophy.
Based on that whole thought process. Yeah, I mean, real quick, though, the difference between public school and Catholic school is with only 300 kids in your whole school. So you're talking about per class, because there was 2 classes, 2 different homerooms per grade. You've got to figure 9 to 15 kids in a class. So you don't get that melting pot fucking lifestyle that you do in public school, where you can connect with certain people based on certain things. Like, you know, like I think you said, like if you see somebody with like with a jacket with patches on it, you know you could probably talk to them. That wasn't my... It was my freshman year in another Catholic school in high school, Cardinal O'Hara, because that was basically a melting pot for fucking addicts and fucking people who were going to fuck their life up in that school. Because that's where
Chris
all
is
of
like,
us came from.
Chris is like, fuck yeah, these are my people.
Yeah, that was an interesting experience. But, all right, so... I don't know how that got brought up through all this, but so my mom gets diagnosed with cancer.
Do you need to lay down on the couch?
No.
We'll sit here. I'll put my
like I said the
down
last episode, my mom is pretty miserable, and my mom's mother committed suicide when my mom was 15. My mom's mom was a crack addict, and she would literally have the kids and be standing outside on street corners. I can't believe I'm talking about this for like fucking hours, half days, watching a bush, saying there's people watching her family through that bush. Like, can you fucking imagine that shit?
That's gnarly.
Like, it's gnarly, right? And her dad was a full-blown fucking alcoholic. He's dead now, too. And he would just drop her and her 2 sisters off at a street corner and say, wait for your mother, she'll be around here soon. And then go home with bags. Like them in fucking plastic bags with their clothes and shit. In the fucking 70s. Yeah. So then, my grandmother, I guess, I never really even thought of it that way, when she killed herself, like, I guess my mom and her sisters got put in foster care, and foster care in the 70s is a whole different
realm. I couldn't.
And I've only heard, like, if anything comes out of this, I would love to interview my mother for this fucking show, because I know very, very little. I know what the little things that she said out of her anger bursts that have been said multiple times in the same way, so I know that that's probably truth. And then I would go to my uncle from my mom's, not through blood, but my mom's sister, who ended up passing away, which put my mom in a bigger hole. Passed away maybe like, 6 years ago. And so I'll go to him and I'll say something small, like, is it true? Like, do you know anything about drug addiction in my family? And then that's when the crack cocaine stories come out. So then I could put all these things together over the last fucking... And again, I'm going to be doing Ancestry.com and stuff. Maybe it's something we can...
Now I'm going to interject a little bit. I'm not going to leave you hanging.
No.
I'm just saying, like, just leave you hanging because you're throwing some shit out there.
Yeah.
Now, you had a grandmother that committed suicide. My grandmother was murdered when I was 11 years old.
Yeah, that's crazy. See, but
By-
you knew your grandmother, though, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
By her husband down in North Carolina. And I was like, to back the story up a little bit, like I said, I don't want to get into the school thing too much, but I was having issues. I was literally going to go move down to North Carolina with my grandmother at the end of the school year. So right before Christmas vacation 1991, me and my uncle were supposed to go down there for like a month. And then I had gotten a call. It was December 7th, 1991. I remember my whole family was sick. MC Hammer was the special guest on Saturday Night Live that night.
Right.
Christian Slater was the host, so I was in fucking heaven that night. Like, everyone in my family's asleep, like, just sitting in my room watching TV and shit. 6:36 in the morning, I get a phone call, and it's like, this is the Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Department. We're trying to find the next of kin. And I answered the phone because I was the only one. I heard it ringing.
Right.
And I'm like, huh? And then they said my grandmother's name. Her husband had beat her to death in the trailer that they were staying in.
Holy
Like a week
shit.
before I was supposed to go down there. And like I had mailed her this care package like a couple days before that. I had like dubbed some anodized clay tapes on it because
Right.
like that was kind of our thing. And like I made this poem in 7th grade English class that made it into this book, and it was about gangs. And somehow they chose it to be like in this fucking book that was being published.
You were a hardcore rap kid.
I was a hardcore rap kid. Yeah, exactly. So, but then I was at, the whole confusion, like, her husband was second cousins to Dolly Parton. His father was a millionaire. He was a vice president of Honeywell
The
Corporation.
one that ended up murdering her.
Yeah. His father would like, and he was supposed to. They were supposed to get like these millions of dollars or something. That's why they had gone down there, and I don't know like the full details, but something had happened. They were drinking. He like stomped her to death, and then called my uncle up and said he was coming up to like kill the rest of the family.
So did he call your uncle right away? Is that how? And like, is that the first
I
person
think
he admitted to killing her to?
I think somehow I didn't even admit to it. He just said he was coming up to see everybody else, and this was after we had already found out.
Right.
But he had already gone and lawyered up when this happened, before he even went to the hospital or even called 911. So it was like a week period of time where my whole family had guns and shit. Like, we didn't know what the fuck was going on. And then years later, like, we got my grandma's stuff, and my mom had it sit in a closet, and they never wanted to go through it. And I happened to find it one day, and I fucking read this dude's journals. It didn't have nothing to do with the actual murder, but it like the lifestyle leading up to it, and it was pretty fucking dark and bizarre.
Do you still have it?
No, and I wish I did.
That's fucking wild.
But even crazier is like, so he goes to jail, and he's supposed to do a hard 20, no parole, nothing. We used to have to go down to North Carolina every year in front of the parole board. So take a little trip down to Raleigh, North Carolina, go in the nice little government building, just like you see on TV, like you sit in a little room, and they got the big fucking legal books, and they got 3 people on the other side.
Right.
And after doing this for 4 or 5 years, they're like, you guys don't need to come here anymore because he's not getting out for 20 years. So we stopped going. Then about 2 years after that, these reporters come up from North Carolina, and they're trying to get a hold of my mom and my 2 uncles. And they're like, we're doing a story on inmates in the North Carolina penitentiary system, blah, blah, blah. So they meet up and tell their whole tale, whatever. The reporters don't really say much. A year later, we, like, right around Christmas time, it's almost the fucking anniversary of when she died. I get a videotape in the mail from the actual story that they did. And it was on prisoners in North Carolina making money while they're in prison.
Okay.
So this guy was an engineer, and he'd also been in the CIA at some point, like in the 60s. As soon as he went into jail, they put him on the lead project for all the construction going on in Charlotte, North Carolina, like when they were building the city up. Like the football stadium, the basketball arena, like a bunch of buildings downtown. So his first 7 or 8 years, like, he wasn't even really in jail. He was out on the job site the entire time.
That's
And he ended up making like $120,000 or $130,000 while behind bars.
How?
And
That's so. How is that even possible?
And- to make matters worse, the year after they told us that we didn't have to keep driving down there, they let him out of jail.
Whoa.
And we didn't know for a couple years.
Because they don't really care about right and wrong. They all care about
Yeah.
in their pockets, maintaining power.
Just
And
so
then-
wild, though. I know. It's just fucking. It's crazy when it's, his fucking grandmother got murdered, man. The guy got out. He fucking made all this money in jail to go out with. Like, how is that even possible?
So then, I mean, we'll get a little... Karma came back and got him a little bit. He ended up retiring down in Florida. And the whole time, like, I was telling my family, like, we got to pursue this money trail. Like, don't let grandma die in vain over this shit. But my family was so fucked up over it. Like, our family has still never been the same because of it.
Right.
They didn't want to have nothing to do with it. And we get another, like, years later, we get another thing from a lawyer. He had some kind of leg thing when he was living down in Florida. And they amputated the wrong leg. So he was trying to file a lawsuit against the doctors to get a bunch of money. But they were like, you're a murderer. Like, you're not going to get shit.
Holy shit.
So I got to a point where, like, I wanted to fucking find this dude and, like, talk to him. Maybe go down to Florida and fucking snuff him out. Like, I had a whole plan going on, so I was trying to locate him. And when I finally did, come to find out he had passed away, like, 6 months prior to that.
Whoa.
So...
What would you know what he died of?
No. Not really sure.
So, okay, real quick, the journals. Like, was he an addict? Was he...
Oh, yeah.
Did he just have mental issues? Like, what
was
was the
definitely-
bulk of the stories that are the truths that were written about? Or lack thereof?
Just a lot of, like, dark, twisted shit. And the weird thing is, and it's something I've always remembered, like, I used to spend a lot of time at my grandmother's house being the oldest grandkid. Because I could do whatever the fuck I wanted and just be left alone.
Right.
Not have to deal with my family. And I remember being a little kid and being over there, and this image, like, fucking haunts me to this day. It's probably like 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. They're, like, in the room. I got my little G.I. Joes and shit. I've got set up everywhere. And I walked by and seen him choking her out while she was sleeping.
Whoa.
Like, on top of her. And it never really registered to me, like, what the fuck was going on.
Yeah.
But it's something I see all the time.
That's fucking
And,
wild.
like, I didn't say nothing to anybody. Like, I let it be. Like, not that I have regrets. I was 8 years old or 9 years old. I didn't know what to fucking do, but it's a haunting image. And as far as the journals, yeah. Like I said, he was in the CIA. He had this one buddy from Ohio that was in the war with him. Crazy motherfucker. Used to come up and visit. My uncle was all... I hate when my voice does that shit. I sound like fucking the dude from Run DMC when he does interviews. I noticed that in the playback. So my uncle, like, used to do a lot of coke. He owned a house. He ran down the stairs one day, punched his hand through a window, fucked his whole shit up. He had like 600 stitches in his hand. They had to surgically reattach everything, so he ended up losing his house and all that shit. He had to go live in the projects. He had all this fucking shit in my grandma's basement. They had a beef one day, and this dude... And he used to have, like, grenades and shit, because he was an engineer. He was working on fucking, like, these top-secret missile systems up at Boeing at the time. Went down and shot up all my uncle's shit with an M16 in the basement.
So he's just mentally fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, like... And he used to tell me all this crazy war shit. So he has this buddy...
So do you think... Yeah, sorry. But do you think that the reason now that you like to make sure that everybody's good and keeping... a good spot is because you feel like you have that opportunity when you're 8 or 9 and didn't do anything about it? You're trying to make up for that shit now?
Bob coming with the deep philosophies
Bob
today.
always has
Yeah,
it. That's one of the reasons why I decided I want to talk about this shit going
like
on today.
I, you know, that's a very well possibility. It's been so suppressed. Like, I never... Like, I see I have the image, I never really think about it, though, because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
But you do. You think about it all the time, and that's...
I guess I don't think about the extra steps behind it.
Well, you know, you get used to thinking about it and it popping up, which I think is like a switch to put on whatever you're going to do to not have that image there anymore, but you get so used to, correct me if I'm wrong, you get so used to learning how to hide it when those feelings come up. It's obviously something you struggle with. You could tell just by talking to you that that bugs the shit out of you, right? So I've done a lot I have a lot of situations like that, those in my life too, but do you feel like you just learn how to shut that off, but at the same time that still has to push you
Yeah, I mean, it's
to
not
be the way you are? Cause
now
that's
that I'm,
smart.
41 and this happened 30 years ago. Like, I don't think about it as much as I did back then. But yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely did. Definitely affected.
But as
The way I did.
an 8-year-old, you don't have any kind of mental stability to be able to put those pieces together, right? You know that.
Yeah.
So
And
Yeah,
even
that's
like when
what
we're
people can do.
we're
Yeah.
teenagers hanging out, and I'm just a fucking weird kid with mental issues. Like, that's a lot of what that shit was. Is just dealing with them kind of struggles.
that's not like being a 15-year-old in school and watching someone kick the shit out of a nerd and not doing anything about it. Or that is
It's-
one thing, but
yeah.
there is not. As an 8-year-old, you can't fucking put those things.
And yeah,
together.
it's just a fucking. And it took me years to like even comprehend what the fuck was going on. I didn't figure it out till well after the fact.
Yeah.
And you said something, Chris, that was like surprising to me when you were talking about your mother's mother, and you called her your grandmother, and you're like, "Wow, I never really thought
Yeah.
about it
Yeah.
like that."
No.
Like, why not?
Because my mom's family, besides her one sister who passed, we've never had a good relationship with. Now, my other aunt, my mom's other sister, we don't talk to any of them anymore. My mom drives a lot of people out of her family, and we are the black sheep in both sides of my family. Now, like you were, I'm extremely close to my grandmother, and I was to my grandfather too. They were together my whole life, and we lived upstairs from them. And they absolutely were that same place that James had, where you
Well, your grandmother and grandfather on your
on my
father's side?
dad's, yes, on my dad's side. So I think why I never met my grandmother. My mom, I've never heard about.
You never had the stories or
Never
anything
had
or
the
any
stories.
kind of like
The first time I found
knew
out
what you were missing out on.
exactly, and the first time I found out my mom's that happened with my mom's mom, the first piece of the puzzle that I had to do research on and try to talk to family members about, like I mentioned, for fucking the next 6 months, or I mean the next 6 years of my life, trying to figure this out. Where was I going? Oh yeah, so like I said, me and my family always had a pretty shitty relationship. Like they didn't get me. I still don't get them. And one day, my dad would call the cops a lot and shit. Like,
On you?
yeah. We would get into it really bad, but
Let us get into it. Like, just argue?
okay, so as a kid, and I just talked to one of my closest friends, and it was the only person in my life that ever said the same thing, that when I was a kid, I struggled with intense, dramatic anxiety. Like, where I'd be in the shower, it's going to sound made up, but I remember it so vividly. And I would think spiders are going to come out of the fucking shower head. I don't know why. I don't know what my fucking problem was. And I would sit there in the shower in the bathtub and say, all right, it's not going to happen for 200 and something days, so don't worry about it. That was the way of calming my fucking anxiety
You
down
just
with
pushed
it.
it further along.
And it was this weird thing that I can't explain. I've never talked about to anybody in my entire life. And when I was talking to my one buddy about it, and he said he had these debilitating anxiety pushes when he was a kid about his family dying. And that was me too. I vividly remember being in church, and my brother was 2 grades below me because he's 2.5 years younger than me. We went to the same school. And I remember one time vividly, and this was an everyday thing, these thoughts for me, but me and Tim ended up being next to each other in a pew at church because everyone went to church at the same time. And somehow his grade and my grade we sat in the pews, and I broke down in the middle of the service. And Tim's like, "What's wrong?" I must have been probably 13, maybe 9, somewhere around in those age range. And I remember me saying, I'm worrying about Graham and Poppy dying, my grandmother and grandfather, and then I'm worried about Mom and Dad dying. And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, it was these debilitating... And I think that with me having such a bad relationship with them through my life, they never knew how to help me. They don't believe in medication. My mom doesn't think she has any kind of fucking mental issues. My mom, I've never seen my mother truthfully happy. And when she is, it's almost like how people get anger spells once in a great while where they break down and just get really angry and have shitty days. that's how she is with her good moods, and it could be an hour, it could be fucking, a day, but you can't associate yourself around those situations too long. And over the last 4 years, 5 years since I've been in a serious relationship, I sort of backed off from her for the first time. That's the problem. I always had these terrible fucking relationships with them, never understood each other at all, but I could never get away from them. Like, they always still did shit for me. Like, all the concerts I talk about seeing as a kid, that was my dad taking me to. But the thing is, I would have these crazy anxiety things, and at night I couldn't sleep. My dad was drinking back then, before my mom gave him the ultimatum. And he would just come in the room, and I couldn't stop screaming, and he would destroy everything. He'd take out fucking all my posters, all my pictures, and it wasn't an everyday thing. And like I said, then the next day we'd be driving and blasting Kiss in the car. It was very confusing for me.
So it sounds like you just had a ton of uncertainty and stress in your life.
Yeah.
And as a kid, you feel powerless for it.
Yeah.
So the spider thing, to me, sounds like you're just waiting for something bad to happen, and that's what it manifested itself into.
Yeah.
And then it's not going to happen for 200 days is you not really addressing it.
Yeah.
And then those things building up where it feels unmanageable and it puts you into these moods.
That's exactly what it is.
And you know what? Like, me and you are, like, so similar.
That's crazy.
It's a good thing that we do this show and shit, even though I'm the slightly cooler one. But anyway, you remember, and this is way before your time, but me and Bobby know this time. Remember that show that used to come on after Elf? There was a lady, she had, like, the glass eye in real life. It was about a family and, like, some kids. We were little kids when I was out there.
Hogans?
Something like that.
Hogan's here?
No, Hogan's, and it was with the dude from Arrested Development.
Yes.
Yeah,
so
she ended up dying in real life, and that's why the show got canceled.
There was an episode of that show where they left the light on and their house burned down. So for years after that, I was so fucking paranoid about that. Every single night, I would go around my house and unplug every fucking thing just about because of that episode.
See, it's interesting that
I used to lay in bed as a little kid and sit there and think that I was, like, having a heart attack and dying just for hours.
See,
like,
it wasn't just... Exactly. It was all those things that in me, too. It wasn't just the spider thing. It wasn't just my parents dying.
And, you know, we're sitting here doing this deep dive on it. Like, that OCD from being a little kid and trying to unplug everything every single night probably led to that issue that happened with the teeth and being so OCD about that years later.
Yeah.
And what it sounds like, too, is because you guys had parents that you couldn't count on to take care of these things for you. You felt you had to take care of it, right? And so that's... It placed a burden on you because your parents didn't really step up.
That's probably exactly
that you can't carry with you. You just got to realize, like, they were broken, I'm broken.
And you know, now that I'm older and I'm well past, like, you sit there and think, like, I'm 41, so when my parents were my age, I was 21. So you get this whole weird perspective on life, like, when you get to that age. When you're a little kid and your parents are in their 20s, like, you think they're these adults, and then when you get to that age, you're like, wow, they were only fucking kids. So it kind of makes sense. I want to go back really quickly before we keep further.
Yeah.
And just touch back on to the guy that killed my grandmother and his war buddy, because some real fucked up shit happened. And this was probably about a year before she moved down to North Carolina and this happened. Maybe 2 years. They were living in Erie, Pennsylvania. They had just moved down there. And we all love going down there to play shows. And me and Vicky have been going down there for the last 10 years, 2 or 3 times a year for vacations to go camp on the beach. Like it down there, whatever. They first moved down there. They were living in this fucking... somewhere in the hood of Erie. Me and my uncle go down there. Like, they had just moved in. His buddy from Ohio, the war guy, they come up. They go out to a bar one night. And like I said, me and my uncle got there. Like, we rented some movies and shit. My uncle ended up not going to the bar, like, because they'd leave me there, whatever. I just fucking eat some cereal, watch some movies, draw some pictures.
Right.
They go out to this bar, and I remember they came home that night and, like, acting kind of shifty. Something might have happened. Not really sure, but when I was reading them fucking journals, and I kind of heard a little bit of stories from my uncle or whatever, they go out to this bar that night, and they're getting shit-faced. My grandma's sitting at the bar, they're all drunk and shit. Some dude comes in and must have started talking to my grandma. They took this dude out in the alley and fucking stabbed him to death.
Holy fuck.
And then grabbed my grandma and brought her back home. And then when they came in, like I said, everything was like all weird and like a sketchy vibe was going on. Like, yeah. So that was in the book. Like that confirmed the whole thing. They took this guy out and they waited for him to leave. The war buddy was kind of sitting out in the doorway, and then as soon as he got outside the bar, they grabbed him up, took him to the alley, stabbed him to death. It was on the news, like in the papers and shit.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, and this is like a year or two before that happened.
With your grandmother, yeah.
So yeah, it was some weird shit.
How long was him and your grandmother together for?
7 or 8 years. 'Cause my grandfather died when I was like maybe 3.
Do you remember your grandfather?
Mm-hmm.
You do? Yeah.
We used to sit on his porch and draw stuff, and like he had like 9 or 10 cats. I used to follow him to the bar and shit. And the weird thing is, like, my grandfather was supposed to watch me the day that the night that he died, but my mom was like running late for work, and my uncle ended up watching me. And then I remember like pulling up to his house, and like the neighbor was out there, and like she had found him. So yeah, that's kind of.
Man.
Let's get back to your mother.
I know. Yeah, good luck.
Okay. Yeah, so
she's diagnosed now.
So she's diagnosed. Okay, so she's gonna have surgery. She decides not to go to Roswell. They're gonna plan on it. This is 2.5 years ago. So we all go to the hospital. We're waiting for my mom's surgery. It's like 6:30 in the morning. It's supposed to start at 8. You know, you gotta get there early and shit. So she's in there for about 2 hours, and things seem to be going fine. And you know the screens that say everything that's going, like
With the
what's
names
going,
and the
yeah,
numbers,
yeah.
and you're in
Yes.
prep and
So
surgery.
Valerie, the only one again that's there out of me, my brother, my dad's brother, that's like, something's wrong. Your mom's doctor's name just changed. Like, you have to go and ask them about this. Like, that's not normal. Val, she's not a nurse or anything, but she's done clinicals when she was going to school, and now she's an insurance representative that knows all this shit. So somehow she's like,
yeah, see, even our fucking girlfriends are almost the same. Mine was a nurse, and now she sells insurance.
Yeah, that's fucked up. I didn't even think about that. That's true. So it's both the same.
My little brother Chris here.
So,
Let's kiss.
I go up to the office. The doctor like, no, everything's fine. She's fine. It was just a something, like, she didn't even say it was a glitch or anything. Like, she didn't make anything up, but she said it's fine. So then the time that she was supposed to be out of surgery goes on for, it's like it goes up for another like 2-hour time. So she's like, something is seriously fucking wrong. So like 2 hours after the scheduled time, and even like 45 minutes after the second time that was posted on the screen, my mom, the doctors come out. And now my mom's gynecologist, okay, who oddly enough is the father of someone I went to school with that used to bully the shit out of me in school, is there, like, and has the gloves on, and he's breathing real heavy, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, where's her fucking surgeon? And he goes, we had a problem. Doctor whatever, who her surgeon was, had a stroke. What happened was my mom was opened on the fucking operating table, and this 70-something-year-old doctor had a stroke
While operating
on my mother, and was in the ICU for 7 months. He'll never walk or practice again.
Oh, shit.
Ever. Right there. Is it a little fucked that they don't tell the family?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I understand why.
Would it have helped the situation?
Exactly.
No.
Probably
And
not.
then probably because of HIPAA, like, I mean, it
It's
wasn't...
what it is. It's HIPAA law.
It wasn't your family member that suffered it, and they have backup people to come in, so they're just going to keep running the operation.
Yeah,
with
really,
the
I mean, they did
backups.
the right thing. They just kept it moving
Yes,
as far as surgery.
exactly.
And then
I just
plus,
think
you know,
as
they don't
the
wanna
person
get-
that's involved with it. It
Get
was
you
just
guys
sort of
riled
fucked
up.
up because the way when I went to the desk, they were just like, "No, everything's fine. It just
Because they probably didn't even really know what to do.
maybe not, but I mean, it's still like
They could have been still trying to figure out what to do.
what to do." Yeah, and I remember the doctor being so fucking tired. It was like a 6-hour surgery because of everything that happened, and just like it was fucking out of control. Because I don't think he was prepared for that either. And the fucked up thing, back up, fucking when my mom first got diagnosed, she kept telling her doctor, and my brother ended up going to this doctor under my mom's. My mom said go to her. She's nice. She wasn't nice at all. She was a complete bitch, and my brother left her practice immediately. But so this doctor tells my mom's complaining about her health for like a year. Like, something's wrong. I know something's wrong. Nothing's wrong, Joanne. It's your anxiety. Nothing's wrong. Meanwhile, not trying to push her to get on fucking medication or anything for her anxiety that they're claiming it is. Find out a year later, she finally goes and tells her gynecologist, like, can you help me get these fucking tests done? Like, I think something's wrong. And she gets fucking diagnosed with fucking ovarian cancer. Which, I mean, I fucking hate doctors. That's another crazy, paralyzing fear I have, is doctors. So, I think it's fucked up that you have to think about that shit with doctors. And my mom just likes to get shit over with right away. Like, she wants it fucking done. That's why they didn't go to fucking Roswell, because I think then it makes it real. More real than it even already is, if that makes sense.
Because it says Cancer Institute right on the sign.
And it's insane because my girlfriend's father years ago got diagnosed with cancer, went to Roswell. They told him he had fucking 5 years to live, and, you know, he just lived the last 30 years. Like, I just wish she would have fucking tried, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and my whole family does. But I think the problem why me and her have such a crazy relationship is I always am the one to say, like, you know, if she calls me crying and saying, I can't eat, I can't sleep, like, I can't enjoy life, I'm like, well, why don't you try CBD oil first, and then maybe we could talk about pot. She doesn't want needles. She doesn't want fucking to take fucking any kind of pain medication. She thinks she can just go through this without anything, and
She wants to have her cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
Has she tried any other holistic approaches, like herbs, medicine, or meditation?
No.
Exercise?
No, just...
So is it more like she wants to just complain about it?
Yeah, pretty much. And then, so fast forward to me at work, and this is the funny thing about girlfriends, because it's never malicious, but if they know something and you don't know yet, they want to make sure they're the ones to fucking tell you. Don't matter how bad it is, don't matter how good it is, they want to be the ones to tell you. So I'm at work, and I call my girlfriend just, you know, to see how her day's going or whatever. I'm on my break. And she's like, I have something bad to tell you. It's bad. I'm like, okay. And I figured it was about my mom because she just went for her second, what the fuck's it called? My brain's all fucked up. What's it called?
Mammogram?
No, to see where the cancer is and if it's...
Like a scan, CAT scan kind of thing?
Yeah.
They put that stuff in you.
The
and
dye.
Yeah, right. So it was in her abdomen, and it's the same size, blah, 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 but it spread to her whole fucking body. Like, it's in her lungs, it's in her back, it's in her fucking lymph node. It's like, it's pretty fucking bad. So, like, with the relationship I've had with her and stuff, like, it's really fucking difficult to be able to go through this saying you shouldn't say anything about her choices, blah, blah, blah. Our whole relationship has been judging each other and poking the bear. The entire fucking thing. All I want is for my mother to be happy.
Which you said that she doesn't really do. Happiness isn't it?
No, happiness is not her thing. And again...
Has this brought you guys closer any?
No, in the beginning when she first got diagnosed, I just got this information about it spreading a couple days ago. In the beginning of her first getting diagnosed, it did in a way, but then she just started coming back, and you could see it come into her own, and then that's when I said, okay, I have to start distancing myself now. Because I haven't my whole life, and if I don't do it now, it's going to be the same shit as it was back then, except she's going to die from cancer, and I'm not going to be able to take any of this shit back. Go ahead.
Isn't you distancing yourself the exact opposite thing that you should be doing?
No.
You have always kind of pushed addressing it away, even when you were a kid talking about the spiders?
No, because the thing is, I always did address it. I always did say it to them. And everything that I talked about today, I have addressed with them, and they blew it off. Because like I said about the cancer, they don't like reality. Yeah. My dad, you know... They don't they just don't like dealing with fucking reality. So that wasn't a thing. Like, my dad doesn't believe. I remember I was so sick one day, and my dad wouldn't take me to the doctor, and my mom took me, and I had pneumonia. Like my dad just kept pushing it off.
The unfortunate thing, though, is like this is the reality, and no matter how much pushing away it's good you want to do or they want to do, like a really big reality is coming soon.
Yeah.
And by not dealing with it now, it's going to be even harder to deal with when it happens.
All right. The thing is, I'm the only one that deals with it in the way that I'm actually comfortable with now. Like, I will tell her my issues with it. Like, in the beginning, it was, you really should, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, but you really should try to go to Roswell. This is not looking good. Like, because my girlfriend will sit there and read all the reports. And then my sister-in-law, her cousin, who my sister-in-law is very close with, is just graduated for being a doctor. So she reads them and says it. So we know how fucking bad it is. My dad is completely failing to fucking understand like how bad it actually is, and he's really fucked when something happens to her. Like me and my brother.
And that's what I said. Like by pushing this reality, it's going to be even worse when that time comes.
Yeah, for him, it's.
Do you feel that? First of all, like now you're getting this out there, and this is obviously a lot of shit that you haven't really been able to tell her face to face.
Yeah, right.
You're gonna maybe have her watch this episode if you can't talk with her.
The thing is, like,
you gotta sit down and talk with her first. Like, what are your plans going forward?
Well,
really? What are your plans? What do you want?
I want what I would love to come of this is for my mom, not of this, but just of this whole situation with the cancer and shit. And I think that's probably part of the reason why I really push the CBD or weed for my mother, because I do want that moment where she lets all of her guard down and we can have a full conversation that is not interrupted by judging or not trying to hear the other person.
So do you think that, because that sounds like why you guys haven't been able to really get to where you're looking to go as far as the conversation goes?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think it turns into that? Do you think that it's her being really embarrassed and like disappointed with how she was in the past and really addressing that as super painful for her? So she's really putting up that guard and trying to project that onto you so she doesn't have to face it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you want her to face it, or do you want her to not have to face it? Because there's ways that you can get to where you're going without exposing her to that rawness that you may not. Because I don't think you want her to really feel that. You don't want her to feel bad.
I don't want her to... No. I don't want her to feel bad. I want her to be... She lost so many people in her life from being a stone cold bitch. Like, I always thought it was me. Like, that's why I struggled so much as a kid. Like, and why do my parents fucking hate me?
And her mom was the one that was out on the street corners and had her when she was a kid. So she's...
Yeah.
At that early age, she had to build these walls up and not have those relationships with people.
Yeah. Because
she knew they were going to leave. To the point where now, as an older person, she pushes them away because it's so natural.
Yeah. I do. And I you know, another big thing is, like, I think we found out as a culture that drug addiction and mental illness really, in a hereditary sense, really plays a role. Like, we find out more and more about how true that statement actually is, I feel. And I want to know what the fuck the true, like, the whole true fucking story. Like, and I'll never find that out.
I mean, it's usually the same story. It's usually... Like, it's the same story for all of us. We were damaged when we were kids, and we had a really hard time processing it. We didn't know how to process it. Yeah. We just felt the way we felt. And so a lot of the stories we tell, it's like crazy times, we're having an amazing time, but it's because we were so reckless because we didn't care anymore.
Yeah.
Because we felt powerless, we felt helpless, and it was us just giving ourselves to, like... hey, we're just gonna have fun. This is how we have fun, so this is what we're doing. Right. Like, consequences be damned. And getting through it is awesome, but a lot of people don't get through it.
Yeah, exactly. You know? Yeah, and that's where all the bullshit that comes from. Because not many people are strong enough to even be able to deal with this shit or even want to try and confront it.
Yeah.
So it's so much easier to make an excuse and go off the deep end. And
That's
my
what
question,
addiction
like,
is. Yeah, sorry, go on.
have you made peace with this situation?
Mm.
Is there
The cancer situation or the
just the whole situation, like the fact that the relationship you have with your parents, and you know that you're not going to get what you want out, you're not going to get the answers you want. So have you made peace with it, or is there still a part of you that wants to try and make it happen?
I guess the answer thing isn't as important as my mom and father realizing what they've done.
So you're looking for that moment of clarity. You want them to just admit it.
I realize that we may have played. Listen, I don't blame anyone for my decisions or choices, because especially when I wasn't a 10-year-old that started getting fucked up on drugs and alcohol. I started at fucking 17. I was a young adult. I made the choice. I was on probation when I started getting fucked up. Like, that's how fucked I was. That's how much of an escape that I wanted. That I easily, instead of becoming a drug addict that only really hurt myself and a couple people along the way, you know, but I robbed a fucking house, and luckily it didn't go that way, and I'm not fucking sitting in jail for fucking armed robbery right now. Like, that it would have fucking manifested.
And, even then, though, you can
into.
chalk that up to being a childhood mistake. Like, I mean, you're a kid, you don't really
well,
know
it
the
absolutely
decisions
was,
you were
because I
making.
was a good kid up until that fucking point.
And just the fact that, you know, where you went, you learned your lesson. Like, you didn't say, okay, I robbed this fucking house, this is great, I'm gonna go out and fucking get a crew, and we're gonna go fucking knock houses all the time.
Which it could have turned into. If
It
I
could've.
didn't give that kid all the shit, and he didn't go and trade it for something that I didn't even know what it was at the time when I read it on the police thing, while I was being questioned, he went to buy Loratabs. I didn't even know. They're like, how long have you been doing Loratabs for? I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck that is. And then, funny thing, fucking 5 years later, I'm eating 20 of them a day. But, like, life played out like a movie to me. And now that I sit back and watch it, I do believe that, to answer your question, that I have come to peace with it. But I really love my parents, and I think the only way I'm going to have peace is if my mother is happy. But I look at that as...
You already see that that's kind of unattainable all these years in your life.
I think it can be attainable. So I think you need to have the conversation, but it's about how you go into the conversation and how you set the narrative to really make sure that she doesn't feel threatened. Because a lot of it is probably because she feels threatened.
Yeah.
So you go into it and you say, listen, like, I'm not mad, I'm not angry at you. The only thing I really want you to understand, and what I need from you, is I need you to understand that you hurt me, and I kind of want to understand why.
Right.
Because it sounds like that's what it is. It sounds like that's what you're looking for.
It is.
And, you know, I tell you what, like, it's something you want to address too soon, because you don't want this, like, if something were to happen tomorrow and you didn't have that conversation, that shit's going to eat at you.
Okay,
the same way that, like, I saw this dude choking out my grandma and just fucking let it go.
Right.
And then how it affected me all these years later. And that's something I've never told anybody until today about the choking out thing.
Yeah, it's fucking wild, man.
And it's one of them things, like, I wasn't able to process it at the time, but I could have fucking said something. And God damn it, why didn't I say something? At least to somebody.
It's not on you to say.
But I was the person that witnessed it, and nobody else knew.
That you don't have that responsibility. That's not on you. That is an unrealistic expectation to place upon yourself at that age.
And then even like what you said, that makes sense. Like, I never thought about it because, like I said, I never said it to anybody. But the fact that ever since then, and the whole time we've known each other and all our other friends and everything, like, I've always been that person to make sure, like, everything is okay. And we even talked about the one fucking time I let that slip we're not going to get into, but I still fucking, even though nothing really bad happened, like, it still weighs on me that I was consciously aware of that shit happened and I didn't do nothing
and you're
about
never
it.
going to be able to get past that unless you become okay with the fact that happened.
And I mean, like I said, nothing shitty really ended up of it, but just the fact that I knew it and I didn't do nothing about it, like, because I've been that person for so long.
Yeah, but then you got to think about the people in abusive relationships who are reported and how it just goes again. Like, they get reported, maybe they do a night in jail. That person doesn't leave them, and then it happens anyways, and they end up
And-
killing him anyways. Like, how many times have we heard that
And
story on
but at
Dateline,
that
right?
point, that's on them. At some point, because there's only so much you can do.
Well, yeah, people just like an addict. You gotta want to get better. You
Absolutely.
gotta want to do it, and
Yeah.
all the problems you guys are talking about that you're going through. All these people that have the problems that are in these situations have similar problems.
Right.
That's why it's hard to be angry at those people, because you know that there's something driving that. Now, when it is okay to be angry is when they know that, they recognize that, and they refuse to do anything about it.
Yes, see, I truly believe my parents don't realize.
It's
Here's the
because it sounds just from your description as that they're living in their own alternate reality because they're avoiding
And they're
dealing with
protecting
the stuff.
themselves.
My parents are not the smartest. I can't blame my mother for that because my mom's life was a fucking complete fucking shit show from the moment she was born, allegedly.
How old were your parents when they first had you and your brother?
Mid to late 20s. Like 26. They had a miscarriage before me, and then they had me, and then they had Tim.
So I mean,
2.5
they
years,
had
2.5 years between me and my brother.
they had a little bit of time to be a little bit older. It's not like they were teenage parents. So they had what were they? What was their life before kids?
My dad was, to all my knowledge and the stories from all of his friends and family that I know, because my dad was I think he was an alcoholic and just never, crazy story, like I remember finding out like later on in life, but my dad played floor hockey, so everyone here can relate to that, right? So, and he used to get in fights all the time. I guess he was like a fucking
I was ready to go have a beer with your
I
dad.
can't relate to that at all.
Can you relate to this though?
I was
This
ready
is
to have a
nuts.
beer with your dad.
So they're playing floor hockey, and he gets in this fight, and he puts the dude in the fucking ICU, and he sues him for a
I was
ridiculous.
bringing a
amount of money.
6-pack over to your parents' house.
Now I
tonight.
don't know how much money, like, but I remember it was little. My mom and dad, when they're and I get like this too, and I notice it a lot with my girlfriend, and why I'm part of when I'm part of the problem a lot of the times. It's another thing I try to be as self-aware as I possibly can, but for some reason, because my parents are not, and I want to at least be self-aware, but the odd thing is I can't change the shit that I know that I'm doing. Like, it's like this fucking button that won't fucking press.
Do you have other options? Do you just feel like you don't know what to do? Or do you feel like you know what to do, but you're just not motivated to do it?
Yeah, it's pretty much that. I think a lot of it's motivation. I think a lot of it's using things like being tired and jobs, and while I really do believe they affect me in the way I'm saying, I feel I feel like my life is more in a depression than it isn't throughout my entire life, my entire childhood. So I think it's just a hold. I think it feels like a hand on me, you know.
Just back to the question I asked earlier about your parents, like what their life was before kids. I just want to get an idea of like how they were living and whether or not having you and your brother was just incidental to life or was something that they had planned. Like they decided we want to have a family and kids, or it just kind of happened and we're just still going with the flow.
Well, okay, so I'll go with the first question.
Was it like they just do the
my
normal
mom's life was how my mom's life was. So the way she was from the time that I can remember as a kid, and I have a pretty solid steel trap memory about my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Probably because I hated it. And I always have had these crazy, vivid memories of specific things. I can't tell you what I ate for dinner last night, honestly. But I can tell you exactly where I was and what shirt I was wearing in 1990, in late 1990 late 1990 when we went to see my brother in the hospital when he was born, when I was fucking 3 years old. It's fucking wild. Like, I have vivid memories of those kind of things. My dad's life was, he went to Catholic school too, where nuns would beat the shit out of you and make you eat crayons if you were throwing them. Like, one of his good friends was throwing crayons in class, and they made the friend eat the fucking crayons. So, like, I don't think there was a lot of education on either part. I don't know when my dad stopped going to school. I don't know when my mom stopped going to school. If she even went to high school with the way her life was going, I don't know. But I know my dad was working at a car shop, and my mom was living next to it, right by Volker's Bowling Alley, where we grew up in Bush Street, and that's how they met. Was my mom lived upstairs and my dad worked in the car shop.
So it seems like your parents were kind of just getting by in life with no real direction.
Yeah,
They were just going. They were just waking up, going to work, coming home, making dinner, going to bed. There was especially like we've talked about this before in earlier episodes when you never your parents never encouraged you to you could reach for the stars, you could be somebody else.
Right. Yeah,
so they never had somebody doing that to them. So it was just kind of real cookie cutter.
Yeah.
Wake up, work, eat, sleep, do it all again the next day.
Yeah.
Go
Now
to church on
my
Sunday.
grandparents owned the house when we were. My grandparents owned the house we lived in that I was born into, and the house behind, which my dad was born into. Mm-hmm. So my dad grew up in the house right behind our family home, then moved over. My grandparents lived downstairs. We lived upstairs. So my grandparents were always there. My grandfather, I love him. He died in 2012, or 2013. He was a racist, typical alcoholic, fat Polak. Growing up, with me growing up, that's how he was. He calmed down a lot. He was in the war. He lost his eye. He was in World War II. Actually, I don't think he fought. I think he was like an electrician or he did something. He was welding something and shrapnel hit him and took his eye out. My dad got his ass beat all the time. My grandmother is the saving grace in my family. She's my best friend. She's in her fucking late 80s. I talk to her almost every day, if not, every other day probably, but if not every day.
It seems like you and your brother kind of have broken the monotonous spell of your family history of just existing and denying.
That's a interesting way to look at it. Yeah, I would say so.
Now as adults too, confronting this issue that the elephant in the room nobody wants to deal with. I think you're gonna have to ask yourself, like Bob said, what do you want out of this? And then you might even now that you're an adult and you're older than your parents were when they had you, you can sit down and talk to them at that adult level. And even if you have to poke and prod a little bit with your mom,
well, the thing
to
is,
have this conversation.
I think that's part of the problem. That's all I do is talk. She knows where I fucking stand.
All you do is talk, but how do you talk?
And you gotta help her get there.
And I know, and I try. The other night, even my girlfriend, for the first time after listening to me and my mom conversation, was like, "That was really beautiful and well said." And I was like, it's interesting because this last week really brought me down when I found that information out. I don't know why. My girlfriend was like, "Why? You're never this quiet. You just come home. We're actually late."
Because that's
she's
reality
helping me
is
so
hitting
much
you.
through this. She's really proving herself through this whole thing by being able to fucking really take care of me through this. But I haven't really been saying much. I've been actually saving it for here because I value what you guys have to say about it and what the fucking 3 people that watch this thing have to say about it. Hopefully it helps fucking somebody who's going through the same shit.
Stop it. You're doing exactly what you're deflecting it. We're not talking about anybody else. We're talking about you. Stop it.
Okay, I got it.
See, you were just pushing it off right there and not addressing it. You deflected
Was I though?
Yeah.
You were.
Yeah.
How?
Because we're talking about you, and even earlier when I brought it back to let's talk more about your mother. You got sucks. It sucks.
Yeah.
You need to talk to her about this. You were hit so hard this week because you know that you have unresolved issues here that you want to address that are not addressed.
Yeah.
And so you have to be very active in understanding how you feel, and then what you want, and then what's the best way to communicate that to your mother.
Well, I'll say this. I did have the conversation with her when I called her because the day I found out I was at work all day, she purposely didn't want me or my brother to know while we were at work, but we both found out while we were at work anyways.
So
So
I hate how parents do that shit too.
yeah.
Like, no, fucking tell me.
Yeah.
Like, let me
Oh,
know.
I was.
Like, you know?
Yeah, but I sort of understand because the thing is, I'm such a worrier that even back then, like my parents now know how I am. Like I would just
at
worry
least
so much.
if anything, they gave you at least that benefit of the doubt right there, knowing you're a fucking warrior and didn't want you to have that at work. That's something. It might only be. It might only.
But why when I ask them
is,
about their past and my family history, does it deflect
that's
even harder
the
than I deflect? Oh shit!
That's the missing. You didn't have to take the battle rap seriously. Holy shit! He's getting thinking about that Gene Simmons doll.
I still think I'm sleeping.
You are probably sleeping, but no.
But
that little bit right there, that is the missing scale on the dragon's belly.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matter of fact,
I
did every Friday after work. But no, just no matter how fucked up things are, that little piece right there, that could be that's your go-to to get into this situation and have this confrontation. You're going to want this conversation with your mom while she's here and not have this in your head for the rest of your life after she's gone.
Here's the thing. I have been trying to do that forever.
Exactly, but obviously...
So it's not about having the conversation, it's about having her hear it.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah, that's why I said that's why it's the missing scale on the dragon's belly.
So what suggest... I tried doing that as a kid. Writing her notes and shit, like writing her letters to get my feelings out since they wouldn't. I mean, I did to my dad too, but he's so fucking numb to everything that he won't even.
And honestly,
he won't even fucking try to figure it out, like to think about if he's having a hard time through something. Like this is gonna
do you go over to your parents' house a lot?
Yes, but like I said, me and my brother have both sort of pushed back a little bit on going, but we do.
I really think that maybe you should go over there and when this episode comes out and have her sit down and watch it while you're sitting next to her, so she can see let's listen, because she's gonna see it on a television or a computer screen. She's gonna see that you're putting this shit out there to the world. This is how you feel deep down inside. She already has an issue with reality to begin with, so to see the reality on a TV screen while in reality you're sitting next to her,
right?
And there's a lot of judgment. Maybe it has to do with all this Catholic school shit, which is judgment and the Bible. What the fuck? But anyways, to have her, do you be sitting next to her while she's watching this? She might have a different reaction than you just sitting down at the kitchen table over a cup of coffee.
I would love to do that. She would never go for it. Like I said, I mean, I will try. Now I will absolutely try because it's a good thing, but I don't think that
and then
the right thing is going to be the right thing to us to be able to get her on that level.
Maybe that's the backup though, because I like that idea, but maybe it is you try to have that conversation and just try to come from a spot of not confrontation, but from understanding.
Right.
And understanding her perspective, understanding her struggle, understanding her point of view. And then if it does get sideways or you're not making progress, just be like, you know what? Like we spoke about this. I did speak about this. I said a lot of things. My friends brought up some good points. Maybe check this out. Send her the link.
I still think sitting next to her, watching it together.
She might get super defensive though.
Yeah, which
you're gonna have to.
Yeah, but it might be easier for her to process if she doesn't feel she has to defend and she has some time before actually.
Then she's not going to watch it.
No,
I mean, at any point, you're going to have to go through some painful shit. Like there's going to be a little bit of conflict before you get to the other side.
The thing is, you guys know me. Maybe I hold back sometimes and shit, but more than a lot of my friends, I talk about my shit. I wear it on my fucking sleeve. She knows that. Like I have no problem going there. I have no problem crying.
But it's not even about, we know what you do. Yeah. We now know what she does. And she's in that position where she needs to get to your level now.
But some more context. She will hang up on a phone conversation within 30 seconds
Just
before
like
she fucking...
just like when you send her the link, if she even turns it on, if she makes it past the battle rap, she's turning that shit off. Like, she's not gonna watch it unless you're sitting there making her
start at a certain time.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm just saying, like,
like
she's still gonna shut it off then.
Yeah,
unless you're gonna have to go through this hard part
Which
to get to the other side.
Be like, oh no, he didn't, and then like want to hear what else you had to say about it, and then get into some of the
and then
stuff
it's
accidentally.
Yeah,
like
and it's
not, through another.
And just hearing from just hearing what kind of people your parents are, and I'm not in no means disrespecting your parents.
Oh no, I get it.
They don't want to hear this shit.
Yeah.
And without you being there to make them, you're never going to get past it.
One time...
And at that point, you're going to have to ask yourself, like, is there even anything to go... Like, are you going to get the closure you want?
Right.
Have you thought of the end game here? Like, at some point, obviously, she's going to pass away.
You know...
And that's a fucking...
I have thought of the end game.
That's shitty shit that you got to sit there and mull about while you're at work fucking pulling pork and hanging out with little Jake. Shout out, little Jake. I mean, yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, you know, I sometimes I wonder, and this is the brutal part that I have to deal with. I wonder if when she passes, if it's going to be easier for me to move on with life from my mental state. Is that fucked up to say?
It depends.
It depends on the conversation you have now in life, because you don't want to leave anything on the table that you said, oh man, I wish we would have had this conversation.
I would love that. I think it's going to frustrate the fucking shit out of me when it fails again to be able to do that.
Yeah, but you need to try again because that's what you feel like you need to do, right?
Absolutely.
All right, then if you don't do it, you're going to be doing a disservice to yourself.
And like I was saying earlier, I didn't get to the point though. Like I was talking to them, or talking to my mom on the phone. I called her the next day after I found out, and we were talking, and she was crying and whatever. And, you know, I just said, and this is when, you know, my girlfriend said, that was surprising that you held it down like that. I was like, I don't want anything to happen to where we won't be able to come to some fucking understanding or togetherness. Like, I just want I want both of us to come out of this being happy and
just good.
Satisfied with our relationship.
So another thing, because you spent a lot of time talking about what you're looking for and what you want, what you need, and how this situation kind of escalated because of the condition she's in now and the recent developments. She's in a different position too now. You know,
for sure.
This is something that changed in a week. 8 days ago, she was not having to think about this, deal with this shit.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it got real again. So she is in a different place than she was last time you spoke to her.
Well, she actually is. She actually came off better than before, because like the cancer thing has been there this whole time. Like she hasn't, and that's another thing. She kept saying, "I know there's something wrong." They kept doing these fucking tests, and even, you know, the two people I mentioned that have some sort of background in medical, or at least if they look up the shit, they can know what it means. They even said, like, her last test came back where there was growth and shit going on in her body. Why did it take fucking 3 months to come back with this information? Yeah. And now it's spreading all over her fucking body. Part of me thinks my mother just isn't doing the correct fucking ways of handling this. I mean, and it goes to the Roswell thing.
I mean, yeah, right there. I mean, she could have went and, you know, top 3% cancer institute in America, and instead goes to the family practitioner.
Yep.
And there was just a whole thing in the news about a year or two ago about people doing that shit.
And their whole thing was, and if they do see this episode, they're going to be pissed if I don't say this. They're both of her doctors are affiliated with Roswell. They think that's like going to someone who works at Guitar Center to fix a really bad fucked up guitar, but they don't have the fucking tools to do it. Maybe they have the fucking maybe they have the fucking knowledge to do it and the ability to do it, but they don't have the fucking tools to do it properly, so now they have to take shitty ways of getting to the same result, which is gonna crack. You know what I mean?
And that you can't be affiliated with Dave Navarro is because you have a guitar center. Oh, here we go. 3-2.
It's my grandma.
Fucking Chris. No, it's 3-1. Hi, Graham.
Oh man.
Dude, the vibrations over there counted.
That was one time. That one fucking
And
time.
it rang another time.
It didn't ring.
Go to the tape.
No.
We'll have
Let's
to go to the tape.
tail of the tape. I want to see it. It's 3-1.
You're gonna have to have like clips of everything that happens in these podcasts in a folder. So when we say something and you know you're right, you
No,
can just
three
bring it up.
3-1.
It's a good transition.
What was the Dave Navarro joke you had?
Yeah, we need to go back to Navarro. That's the second time Navarro
you
got
can say
mentioned.
you're affiliated with Dave Navarro because you work at Guitar Center and they sponsor him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
The
And
guy working on my guitar is affiliated with Dave Navarro.
it bugs me that they didn't take that they just wrote it off. And because me seeing, my father-in-law, for lack of a better word, like knowing that he beat this going to Roswell, you know what I mean? Like they gave him fucking 6 years to live. It's been fucking 2 decades. Yeah. Like and he's healthy as a motherfucker.
Yeah.
And he's in his late 60s and he still fucking runs every day and he still fucking goes and does shit every single fucking day. I mean, he's
At least come with a cooler fucking ringtone if you're gonna leave this shit
That's
out.
my Graham's voicemail, probably.
Graham, slap this fucking kid.
Yeah, and you know what's funny about my grandmother is like, because she's the thing, like she lived with my parents like on and off since she moved back from Florida when my grandfather passed, and it's always very bad, very bad. Like my parents are extremely aggressive. It's extreme aggressive behavior, and when that happened like 3 years ago, the last time where my grandmother was just bawling in the house, and me and my brother went to help my dad set something up outside, and next thing you know, him and my grandmother are fighting because my mom and my grandmother were at odds, and it was my mother. Like that was the problem. Like we watched the whole thing, and my grandmother ended up moving in with my aunt after that happened. That's when we sorted, and this was even after my mom's first cancer diagnosis. So we sort of started, because here's the thing. I always went back to my mother. I'd always call my mother after huge fights, after me calling her a bitch. I'd call her and apologize and always try to, but nothing ever came of it with me and her, like to try to take all the shit. Like, I'm sure you had to do that with your wife a couple times. You had to do that with Vicky. You're going through that. I had to do that with my girlfriend multiple times. Like sometimes you just got to pour the shit on the table, and we've never been able to do that with my parents. And it fucks the entire thing.
Oh yeah,
up.
without a doubt.
And like, so I see with my grandmother for the first time, because she used to cry all the time, even when she moved in with my aunt. My aunt got her on non-narcotic anxiety medication, and I haven't heard her cry in a year and a half. It's fucking crazy, because once a week, I talk to her almost every day, and once a week I'd hear her bawling, and it hasn't happened. And I'm like, can you imagine if mom got on that shit and was able to fucking control it? Like it could have been her whole life could have been better. Now she has cancer and she's not even gonna know. It's fucking crazy.
And maybe that's a conversation you can have. I mean, obviously at the twilight of life, maybe find something that'll bring a little bit of happiness before it's over with.
And I don't want it to happen on her deathbed, I want it to
exactly.
happen.
I'm gonna say maybe going through this shit, maybe now's the time to say, hey, maybe this worked for look at Grandma. She used to be sad. Now Grandma's not so sad.
Yeah. Look at Grandpa. He had cancer and now he's doing great.
Yeah.
And
but that their whole thing is going to be, my mom's whole thing is, I'm not taking medication. She's refusing, through this whole cancer thing, she's been refusing shots. She's been refusing medicine. She has fucking Dilaudid. She called it Dilated, so I'm assuming it's Dilaudid. but she has Dilaudid. She won't take it. and she she's in all this pain, and the thing is, she knew she couldn't even eat. Shit would get stuck in her throat. She's got all lesions in her throat and shit from this fucking cancer. I remember,
maybe that's part of the conversation you need to have. Say, do you want some comfort? I mean, you've gone this far. We've gone down this road for so long. it's never too late to change, but it's almost too late.
But I think she always thinks I'm just trying to get her high. I mean, she knows about my smoking. I mean, and let me say a quick story about who my mom is, other than this fucking terrible shit. Is one time I fucking was this is another story I never told anyone. It's in my 20s, probably 21, and I was back living at home, and I was probably like 22 because me and Monica had just broke up and I was back living at home. And it was right before I went to Florida and cleaned myself up. And
good tie-in with episode 5 mental health day.
So I snort Oxycontin for the first time, probably like 20 milligrams. And then I get a bag of cocaine. And then I get another bag of cocaine. And I did it in my apartment that I was leaving, and we still had it for a couple of weeks, but I was still living at home. So I just sat there with a friend and did it the whole fucking night. And I went home, and I remember watching the roast of Donald Trump way before his fucking presidency on Comedy Central. So that gives you a thought on the year. It was, I was probably like...
What is it called when you do oxys and coke? There's a special name for that?
Speedball is the heroin and coke.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming any upper and downer. Yeah, pretty much. And I remember watching it, and then and this is probably like 2 hours after actively doing either of these drugs. They're already all gone. And I go upstairs, and I'm like, okay, I got to go to the fucking hospital. And I go upstairs. Actually, I think I was
Were you
20 or
overdosing at the
21.
time?
I thought I was.
You're on some James Belushi shit?
I thought I was overdosing. I never said this story either. I thought I was overdosing. And I went upstairs, and I was like, Mom, and she knew right away. She woke up. It was like 3:30 in the morning. And she's like, what's wrong? I'm like, you have to take me to the hospital. She already knew I was struggling with drugs. But again, besides like them taking them from me or coming in and catching me doing them and taking it, it was never fucking talked about. Why the fuck I was doing this shit in the first place. Like... And
I learned it by watching you.
No,
that was an 80s PSA thing.
I didn't know how to fucking deal with it, So she just got up and took me right to the hospital, It was fucking, and that is the first time she told me, my mother was a drug addict, or my mother was big into cocaine. I later found out.
That's why she doesn't want to take any kind of medication for anything.
Yeah. Like that's again. These are things that I definitely have thought about, and like I can have like little knowledge bubbles of like, okay, this is why this is happening. But I want to talk about it with her. Like I would love the best case scenario, and part of it is selfish. I would love to literally do an interview so there was a reason for her to answer these fucking questions.
Now, do you think she would do it?
No.
What if we say it's for the Seneca Nation Casino?
How do you know my mom's so into the casino? That's true.
Because he's out drinking 6-packs with your dad.
I know people.
They play floor hockey together on Wednesday nights. He heard all about this shit in the locker room.
Yeah, so it's just a long. It would take literally days to have the full discussions that I want to have with her and fucking figure shit out, and none of us really have patience. But I've always been the one that said, no, let's just do it. Like, let's fucking figure it out. Like, I always, like, that's why, like, me and my brother, 99% of our life have never fought. The other 1%, which is probably a few days in hindsight, it's been fist fights and craziness. And
now you guys work together? You guys fight at all?
No, we've always worked at a lot of jobs together. Back when we were younger and working at like Mighty and shit in our early 20s, late teens, there'd be a little fun. But we lived together for part of that time. At that point, we were both doing drugs. Tim would be someone great to have on because he was so quiet, and you guys probably know him as being so quiet and not talkative.
He's ready to come with 16 bars.
He's got 16?
Yeah. And
he got 16 on you? Is this going to be a family battle?
I don't know if he would rap, but he really has gotten into talking about stuff and shit. And I think because he's never been open about his struggles, like he never really talks about the problems from back then. I would love to have him on here and talk.
We can call that episode Guy and the Family Stoned.
There you go.
I'm going to give you a piece of advice for the end game part of this whole thing. I'm gonna give you a piece of advice that I have been going with for years.
Right.
As your friend, as your co-host, as you being my dorky little brother who likes 80-year-old dudes in makeup, lip syncing the fucking vocal tapes.
Yeah.
When you get so much anxiety and so much shit you're worried, and this could be the Doors at 7, Kitchen 9 tip of the day. Might not work for everybody, it works for me. As people always say, how do you handle all this shit? When you get that much anxiety, and you know shit's gonna be fucked up, or the possibility of something's gonna be fucked up, every day you just have to mourn a little bit for that fucked up shit to happen. So when it does happen, you're prepared for it.
Yeah, and I think that I knew in the beginning, and again, you guys know me, I always go with the worst sometimes, but I said there's no way that I said my mother's name is making it through this fucking thing. Even when she was first diagnosed, she refuses to take help. She refuses to take medication. When the doctors are offering it to her, she doesn't want needles in her to help with the pain. She doesn't want anything like that. So there's... I have dealt with it. It's going to be really sad.
Edibles.
I know. I do.
No, I'm
I've
saying,
been trying.
would your mom take a low dose edible?
Oh, I've been trying. It's
What if
so.
you don't tell her?
I'm saying super low dose, not like fucking Chad's brownies. But a low dose.
Shit, what was I gonna say? All right. So what are you gonna do when it doesn't go the way you want it to go with your mother? What's gonna be the fallout from that? And how are you gonna address that? Because it's not gonna go the way you want it to. Like we've talked about, like in a perfect world, this is how it would go. This is how we'd like it to go. It's not. There's like what 20% chance of that actually happening.
If that.
Yeah.
Right. So what are you gonna do when it doesn't go like that? And how are you preparing yourself for that?
I feel. And I was saying this the other day. Now I feel that I have, because my girlfriend asked me that exact fucking question, and I feel like I have come to terms with it, and I feel what I just did today is the last piece of that puzzle, whether my mom decides to open up and talk.
And like I said, like I really think, like you're
do.
saying it's not going to happen. You're reluctant, like you seem even reluctant to try. But I think the best possible thing is for you to actually sit down with her and make her watch this episode, as painful as it's going to be.
I can.
I know
take
you're
the pain.
right. I'm not saying the pain for you. It's going to be painful on her.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I don't even like. I am going to try this, but I'm telling you right now.
And it might not. It might take like you might have to even push it for a little while, like till the
Don't
point.
even tell her this. Like, hey, I want to show you what we've been doing. Just turn it on.
I mean, if they've been, what is the support?
I mean, really, if you try
What is your
else,
what's your parental support as far as like you being in bands and doing shit like this over the years?
That's funny. My mom's seen me a few times. The first two shows, she's seen me. She's seen me with the Kiss tribute thing a few years ago, which was another really hard time when my uncle fucking died. Him and my grandmother were the two that in my family that I could always talk to as family. Like I could always talk about this shit. And whenever me and Tim would stop talking to my mom and shit, like my uncle would be like, make sure you, like, I understand why you did this. Like, make sure you don't lose contact with me. He ended up dying. My grandmother has all these kidney issues. She'll be gone soon. Like, I think now it's just going to be whatever happens is going to fucking happen. And me talking about it and being open about it to other people, let alone myself, I think is going to save me through this.
See, because you say this is like, this is going to be like help with the resolution of this. I don't think so. I think you putting it out there allows you to move on to the next step, the next level.
Right.
And what is the next level going to be, do you think?
I think it's him understanding a little bit more about where his mother's coming from and her perspective in the interactions that they're having with each other. Because it sounds like she's felt really super defensive in these conversations and felt like this could turn into me being attacked because you guys do have a history of arguing with each other.
Yeah.
And it getting pretty bad and calling her names, and like that's not what she wants to feel, especially now.
Right, and that won't happen. Like, I've come a long way from that, but you gotta, like, here's the thing, like, the words "I hate you" came out of my mouth a lot as a kid, but it came out of her mouth first.
Yeah.
Okay? The phrase "I hope you die" wasn't not said a couple times in our life. Like, that is the thing. Like, I remember my dad, like, when I said about my dad with my anxieties and not being able to handle it, he would, you know, come in and just start fucking raging and not think, he didn't handle it that way. So I don't think my mom was going to be able to get any fucking help from my father either.
And you know, that saying shit like that is a lifetime of just miscommunication and communication problems and denial.
Yeah, it was bad. And quick story. One time, I remember my mom going to my dad. We got in this huge fight. And my mom goes, "And you know he wants to kill himself." And this is what I said. "Anything is better than living here." Okay? It was a fight. Anything is better than living here. I remember it like it was fucking yesterday.
Who said this, that they wanted to kill themselves?
No. Nobody. There was this argument, and like I said, I always talked about my anxieties, and when there was arguments, I would say, "But you guys don't listen to me. You guys don't know where I'm coming from." That kind of shit, which then led to, "Fuck you, I fucking hate you, I wish you knew where I was coming from." And then it would just come to, "Fuck you, I hate you." From both sides. There was no... So then, the whole narrative gets lost on why these fights are even fucking happening. So my mom... So... She goes, "And you know he wants to kill himself," to my father. And I said, "Anything's better than living here." An hour passes. Now, 45 minutes, or an hour after that said, the argument started again. Probably because I wasn't studying or something. They probably came in my room and I was listening to music.
Turn this fucking kiss bullshit off.
Exactly.
Do your math homework.
While they did support my love for that band, especially my father, yeah, that's sort of how it works. But... So the fight happens again. My dad, after we are arguing, nothing about suicide, nothing about any of that is brought up. My dad calls the fucking police because we're yelling at each other at this point, screaming. Calls the police. Like I said, the cops were called a decent amount. Both, you know, always by my parents. One time, the last time it happened, I showed him probably not to do that because he ripped my shirt off of me and it was hanging off, and I went so far into saying I was going to press charges just to teach him a fucking lesson. I wasn't going to press charges, but I wanted to show him it's possible. Look, you call the cops, and if I want you to be taken away right now, there's a mark on me, not on you. You know what I mean? So back to the story real quick. So then my dad calls the police, and he says he's going insane and he's threatening to commit suicide. An hour before is when Anything Better Than Here was mentioned, after my mom is the one that mentioned the word suicide.
Did they 5150 you?
So they take me in.
And you're like, Van Halen rules!
I have a guitar pick. That they take. They talk. I know a lot of people who spend a lot of time at ECMC. They didn't keep me overnight, which honestly says a lot about that situation. They keep fucking everybody. Like, they knew that I was no fucking threat to anything. And honestly, now that I think about it, suicide was a weird thought, and it wasn't anything ever serious.
It's because it
was
your threat. It was your fucking
sometimes
Joker card.
it was in my mind, thinking that I had nobody to relate
you were going
to.
through scenarios.
Yeah.
You're kind of like, what if?
Yeah.
Also, like I said, it was your Joker card, and not even your Insane Clown Posse Joker card. But whenever you throw that shit in there, that gets people talking. So, two things before we wrap up here. I want to know, how do you feel today after getting this out? Do you feel any better?
Oh, definitely. That's why, like, I didn't want to, like,
No.
Bob, like when I told Bob about this, and Bob's like, you know, because Bob's fucking one of my fucking best friends. He always does the right thing in my eyes.
You want him to keep the teeth in or keep them out?
And you know, he wanted me.
Dealer's choice.
He told me if you need me, call me.
He's got the Joker's card.
He told me if you need me, call me, and I didn't want to. I wanted to do it here No, I think this is. Yeah, I do. I feel a lot better. I do.
And no, like I said, I know you were trying to get to that point earlier and saying we're having this conversation to help other people, but obviously, like, we're here. You're a fat dorky little brother likes Kiss. Like, obviously, we're here for you.
Yeah.
And we're going forward through the situation.
All right.
You know you have us to be there.
Yeah, I do.
And anytime we need to sit down and talk about it, whether on camera or in private on our little chats, whatever.
Yeah. No, and you both
Like
know
you
how
do.
much I appreciate that.
Now, before we wrap it up, I'm just going to leave you a quick little story, just because you just bared your fucking soul on this little couch here.
I'm ready.
So, same thing, like, my dad's side of the family, I don't fuck with any of them people. My mom had cancer. She's in getting her surgery. My little brother shows up, waiting for my sister to show up, or, like, anytime tragedy goes on, me and my little brothers get together, it's comedy hour. So we're in the fucking little room, there's little fake fucking knitted tits that they give to the women with breast cancer.
Yeah.
So we're giving him my little brother, and he's bugging out. Get a call from my father. Like I said, I don't fuck with anybody on the side of his family, especially his parents. They're just fucking kind of rotten, evil people. My grandfather lived down in North Carolina when he had senile. My grandmother brought him back because she wanted to milk money out of him and shit. Put him in this little apartment next door in their house that they had built for her. While my mom's in getting her surgery, my grandfather had wandered out of his apartment looking for a cigarette. And this isn't like January. Ended up falling in the creek next to their house that I grew up playing in and died.
Oh, holy shit.
While my mom was getting her surgery.
Wow.
Kitchen's closed.
That was a good wrap up. That was really good.